Went over anyway.
Okay, it is 6:30. I'm going to call this meeting to order.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All counselors are present. You know who's online making all the noise?
It says that Rose stated she had some knowledge. When I asked her, she did not state anything. She told me she didn't have to tell me.
I did state that I had knowledge.
At the beginning, but when I asked you exactly what it was, you said you didn't have to tell me.
Correct.
So that is in fact not correct. That response there, and it needs to be amended.
What should it say?
That she didn't have to tell us. I went back and looked at the video. But other than that, they're
Do you
fine.
want to, do we do motion with an amendment? Okay, so I would entertain that.
I make a motion that we amend the August 2nd, 2021 minutes, page 2, paragraph 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, where it states that Rose stated she had knowledge of a potential project that needs to be crossed out. And what she actually said was she didn't have to tell us.
I did say I have knowledge of a potential project.
At the beginning you did.
Okay.
But when I asked you what that was, you said you didn't have to tell us.
Correct. I restated that I had knowledge.
Anyone want to make a motion?
I make a motion that we amend it.
Okay,
Yeah.
So I'll second that as amended.
okay. Julie, are you good? You getting this? Okay,
Okay.
okay, please do.
We need to.
Vote.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
I'm
That
gonna
was just
abstain.
to amend. That wasn't
Yeah.
to
Oh, okay.
accept it.
Yeah.
I make a motion that we now accept the 2 meeting minutes
As amended.
as amended for 8/2 and 8/13.
I second that.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
There's actually all meetings in there. I never adjusted the agenda from all the executive sessions on the 16th and 26th as well.
Okay,
So they're executive session though, so does that, is it minutes?
So we should
The roll call then.
so we should make another motion because I didn't include those in my motion. So I make a motion to include those as well.
So is it 8:16 and 8:26?
Correct.
Executive sessions.
That's August 13th. August 13th and 16th.
Oh, right, the 13th, 16th, and 26th.
Yeah.
Right, there were 3 of them.
Yeah.
So you made the motion to accept those as well.
Yeah.
I second it.
Okay. Any discussion?
Julie is going to check on that.
Yes, Julie's gonna watch the video and take care of that. The amendment.
Okay, so I'm wondering how I should vote on that.
You
I-
probably should abstain.
If you'd like to abstain, that's completely fine.
And
That's the
until,
best.
yes, I will.
Okay,
But I
so-
do support the rest.
Oh, wait a minute.
So
She motioned to amend it.
that's already done.
That's already done.
Done.
And you accepted it.
And you abstained from that already.
Okay.
So now it's just the
Now it's just
the
the
three executive
executive.
ones.
Executive session.
13,
Session.
16, and
Okay.
26.
Yeah,
Okay, and we have, you seconded it.
correct.
We had discussion. All those in favor? Are we good?
I think we're good now.
So you motioned the first one.
I
the
did.
First two meetings. and
I didn't
you
realize the
seconded- and you
executive
seconded
session.
it.
I did.
And then it was all in favor, 4-1. She abstained,
4-0.
4-0.
Yeah, sure.
nothing. And then you motioned again for the other three. And
Yes.
then it was all in favor. and then-
Yes, and
Yes.
Paula seconded it.
Got it.
Sorry.
That's okay.
Okay, 4.2, department reports as submitted. I will entertain a motion for this, but I would like for Alan, if you don't mind, if you would come talk to us a little bit about what's happening with the solar project, just so everyone is aware of what's happening.
So Alan Plummer, Code Enforcement Officer. So the planning board has done a great job of putting together a draft of a solar ordinance. I'm holding on to that now. We did some revisions the last time we met. We're meeting again on the 20th of July. No, the
August.
20th of August.
September.
And we're going to take up the reworked format of the ordinance, plus some suggestions that Mitch gave us as a planning board. I have gotten in touch with John O'Donnell to talk to him about tax implications. I invited him to this meeting, but his response was, all the other people that we work for have asked me to do that same thing, and I'm not going to do that with any of you. However, if you can get me some very pointed, direct questions, I will answer them as pointedly and directly as I can. It's when people ask broad questions that there's lots of room for interpretations, and he would like to eliminate that. So I do have some questions that I'm formulating. I'll send them to him in an email. He'll take time out. Right now is the worst time of year for them. They're low staffed. They're very busy with their assessing. He said he'll get to them as soon as he possibly can. His instinct is to get back within 2 or 3 days. He'll aim for that, but he can't promise that. So we'll have further information about that. But great progress by the planning board in a very short time period.
Yes.
So there's a significant ordinance put together. They have a checklist from the planning board chair, Walter Goss, to go through. That's their homework assignment. And look at the ordinance that we've developed so far and make sure that everything is on that list is in the ordinance. I expect we'll be close to done with that at the 20th meeting. However, there's a significant notification process when it comes to zoning changes. So when an ordinance is developed that affects specific zones with specific allowances or prohibitions, there's significant notification that has to happen to residents in those zones, as well as publications, and a specific time period that has to be adhered to for the planning board first, and then when it comes to you guys as well for zoning changes.
Okay. So that has to happen before a public hearing, or?
The notifications do before
Okay.
the public hearing. So the planning board will have a public hearing of their own,
Yep.
separate with notifications.
Mhm.
And then they'll vote to pass that on to the council,
Okay.
who you will also have the same kind of notifications. Okay? That clear things
So
up? Do you
well,
want
yeah, but you have
specific-
to send them both times?
No, the public hearing has to be for both. The notifications just have to be a one-time
Okay.
notification to people that are in that zone
Okay.
or the zone that changes. Sorry about that.
So do you have a timeline for this? Rough?
Well, I don't know if we're going to finish on the 20th.
Okay. Well,
So,
great work so far.
yeah, they've done a great job. I just
Yes.
kind of monitor what's
Oh,
going on.
great.
Yeah.
Okay, well, thank you very much for that. Appreciate it.
Madam Chair, can I add to what our code officer has indicated?
Yes, please.
Everything kicks off from the time that the planning board is comfortable with a set of rules, regulations. Or in this case, they've drafted the solar ordinance to its final level. Then everything kicks in, and it's prescribed to go slow so that the public is fully aware of those changes and effectively has opportunity for input along the way. But generally speaking, once the planning board has completed their obligations and has finally conducted their public hearing, and presuming they give a thumbs up, it gets sent to you as a council, and we then have the prescribed requirements for notification going forward. Presuming that that date is successful after your public hearing and you choose to act positively on that, it still takes 30 days for it to become law.
And so to think that there's going to be construction September 15th, October 1st, you have to recognize the reason it is so slow is because the public has the right to know.
And that's why they asked for the 6-month moratorium, because it takes about 6 months to get through that process if you do it properly and at the pace that it goes at normally.
Thank you. Also in the audience is Mr. French, and we're doing department reports, and I thought you might want to speak to that issue that you sent me a comment on.
Remind me.
Okay, sure.
I didn't bring my report.
The pump station,
The pumping station.
because it is,
Steve French is my name.
yeah,
Our pumping station was built about 30 years ago, brand new. And so we still refer to it as brand new, but it's not. Our main pump is starting to fail us. It pumped 520 gallons when we started it. Today it was down to 430. It's still pumping enough water, but it needs to be refreshed. It's depending on who you talk to today, it's a $60,000 job. We need to pull the pump. And so I was hoping that if there was any error money around that you'd think of us. If not, coming up, and I don't know when it's going to happen, there's infrastructure money. I watch day to day and I just can't get a grasp on when they're going to say yes. So our pumping station's working, it's working fine. It's just not putting out like it used to. And so that's one of our problems. The second one is the pumping station was built with a backup engine. It backs up the big pump. It doesn't back up the small pump. And so we'd like to have a generator. We'd like to remove the backup engine and put a generator in there. We've applied to EMA for grant funds, and there's a 50-50 program out there. It's $35,000 to get a generator, and they'll pay half of it if we get the grant. Last year, they were excited for us, thought we'd get the grant, and we didn't last year. They're equally as excited this year, and hopefully we'll get the grant this year. So we'll have to come up with half the money. We have it. We have it. We have to pay for it all, and then they reimburse us. So those are the two grants we're looking at. Well, the EMA one feels real good. We'd like to get rid of the backup engine and put a generator in there. The generator will run the big pump and the little pump and the station itself. So that's where we're at with the pumping station. If you get some spare money, we'd like to talk to you about it.
I'll keep you in mind.
Thank you.
thank you, Steve.
Okay, so we started with a motion to accept. Now that we've had those brief descriptions, I'd entertain a motion to accept the department reports as submitted.
I make a motion that we accept the department notes as submitted.
I'll second the motion.
Okay, any discussion? All those in favor? Okay. 5.1, the referendum vote is on 11/2/21. Do you have more information about this?
You have to set a public hearing, and that hearing date should be October 14th. And you would, I'm sorry, 4th, and you should do that for 6 PM, allowing a half hour for any public comments and so on. And then we'll advertise that your regular meeting will follow.
I don't know what it's about.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I forgot.
Oh, okay. Yes, now I remember.
Okay.
So the
The
referendum,
appropriation monies,
okay,
and that deals with the fact of the correcting of the revenues on the assessment.
okay. So, and we need to have a,
Completely forgot that.
We need to vote on this? or
yeah, do we
just
need
set
to?
it?
I think you- somebody was supposed to set.
Okay, so October 4th at 6 PM, which is prior to our next council meeting, there will be a public hearing on the referendum vote.
Yes,
That will be held on this 11/2.
correct.
Okay. 5.2, the general assistance ordinance update.
Every community in the state of Maine receives an updated or appendage update on the general assistance ordinance laws for the state of Maine. You have received that. It is the guidelines for which the general assistance administrator will continually make decisions and base their final decisions on in terms of what eligibilities there are and the values of those eligibilities. We follow the general assistance guidelines of the state, and as MMA has suggested, when you get the amendment, please accept that, and that will replace any prior actions, amendments, and bring us up to date.
Okay. So are you all set with that then? That's just something we'll have to do, or do we need to do something
You need to act on it and approve it
today?
today.
Okay, so, oh yeah, we're just this, we'll do this later.
Yes,
Okay.
That's
so
at the
just
bottom.
Informational.
number 10.3.
And then 5.3, renewal retail marijuana license for 420 Pharma. So we need to have a public hearing for that, correct? Now. Okay, so we'll open that public hearing up now for the renewal of the retail marijuana license at 420 Pharma. Is there anyone online who has anything, or anyone here?
I don't see anybody. Things are quiet.
Okay, well, then we can close that public hearing. Moving on to comments from the public. You have 3 minutes, and if you would come up to the, yep, and just speak right into the microphone and state your name and address first, please.
Andy Emery, 46 Clifford Street, Mechanic Falls, Maine, 04256. At the meeting that Cindy was put onto the board, there was another man running for the board, and you neglected to ask him any questions, and I wanted to know why. You asked Cindy questions, and he didn't get asked any questions. I just wanted to know why. You were here, you must know.
I'm not recalling, who was it?
Mr. Morgan, he lives here in Mechanic
Yeah,
Falls,
didn't we?
and he was running for the town council. Maybe you'll go back to the thing, but I was watching that night, and I didn't hear you answer him any questions.
I think he came in late too.
Oh, did he come in after
That's, so
it?
you didn't have time to ask him questions.
I
is that it?
believe,
No, I can't say that, no.
Okay, I just
not
wonder
su-
why you didn't ask him anything. I thought, I've been before when you put people on the board and you always ask him questions, and that man didn't get asked a question. I just wondered why.
I don't know if he's the one who spoke after me, but
Yeah, he was.
and I think he came up to the microphone and he simply said that, I believe it was something to the effect that I'd said everything and he agreed with me for
Yeah.
reasons why I was on. It was something
just
to that
wonder why you didn't
effect.
ask him.
That's all I remember from that, Penny.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
I
don't
just know there
remember.
wasn't any questions.
Yeah.
I just wondered why. That's all.
sometimes it's because we have what we need in front of us. I can't recall unless I'm in the situation, but I think he did come in late, but I don't know. if
He
that's-
come right in
Yeah.
after Cindy. You
Yeah.
stood right up
Yeah,
after
he-
Cindy, so
yeah.
I don't
Okay,
think
so
he
he
was
did,
too
okay,
late.
so if he stood in front of
Thank you.
us,
Yeah.
No, I agree. Can I just say something? he did, I know Sonny well, he came in to the meeting late and there was question of whether or not because you had to be present to run. And so if I remember right, we had a quick executive meeting that night. Is that, if my memory serves me right, and we went in that room?
Is that the night where I asked him, and he was a mechanic?
Yes.
And he basically indicated
Right,
to the council that I would have answered it the same way.
right.
Okay, so that's why we,
That's how I remember it.
okay,
He came in while you guys were in executive session.
okay.
Norma Crabtree, 23 Highland Avenue. I've lost gentleman's name already. What was his name? Morgan? Mr.
Yes.
Morgan? Okay, when that time frame occurred, I was spoken to from the town council. Chris Strout was spoken to from the town council, and Cynthia Larrabee was. Mr. Morgan was never called to the podium to make any comments or to have any questions asked of him. And if you look back on the videos, I think you will find that to be correct.
No one online has any?
I didn't raise my hand, but Sonny did go to the podium because I made a comment after he was done that he could run for the budget committee if he wanted to, if they didn't get elected to the council. He was at the podium.
I just didn't hear any questions asked. That was my thing. I just didn't know why you didn't ask them questions.
Okay, thank you.
Sometimes when you're listening from home, it is hard to hear what everybody's saying. I'll agree with that. I think the idea was the person was already chosen before the meeting started. You can tell me no all you want, but I know it was already chosen before the meeting ever started. That's my opinion.
John Damon, the rescue chief and the assistant fire chief. I was hoping you guys could set aside $5,000 from the COVID grant money to help with the rescue supplies that we seem to be going through quickly due to the scenario we're in with COVID and whatnot. The prices are going up on everything. I just took down a quick note. A box of gloves is about $53. N95 masks are $32 per box. Surgical masks are $12 a box. Hood testing system, which we should have all of our guys tested to wear their N95s, that's $450. Solution for the hood testing systems, $35. Goggles are $10. Disinfecting wipes, $12. And dispensers for gloves. And I'd like to put one in every truck, so all the guys have gloves they're ready when we get in there. Those are about $110 a piece. So as you can tell, things add up quickly. I think just recently with Lisa, I put in $1,000 just to catch up our glove supply because things get out of stock. I can't get them, so I have to bulk buy it when I do find it. So I was hoping you guys could set some funds aside for that. So when we get possibly over on our supply funds for our budget, we could have some extra to tap into.
Okay.
And then Fred was also reminded me, the fire chief, to remind you guys about the training per county, the 402 training that's on the 22nd. I think he's on the Zoom, so he can chime
The
in.
NIMS training?
Yeah.
Thank you. Mitch, how does that work if they want to request money from the COVID funds? How does that work?
Your budget is already set. I'd have to go back and research, but didn't you originally anticipate a $55,000 cost related to the life pack or 35? But we had talked about something greater than that. And that money still potentially can be dedicated towards that additional purchase. But my question would be, Madam Chair, is at the rate of expenditure, what is your projection deficit in that line item at year end?
I don't have the budget in front of me, so I can't say right away, but I know that $1,000 order that I put in just for gloves hit me pretty hard, pretty quick. So the things I talked about
came up to about $3,500 just to get us restocked with everything that I think we would be needing here shortly.
Yeah, I think tomorrow morning I will research with the new town manager, but I don't think it's a special appropriation. I'm wondering if the monies that were allocated could still be utilized for fire department. I'd have to go look at that.
Okay. Any more comments from the public? Okay, we'll close that. 7.1, executive session for real estate matters, Title I, MRSA, Section 4056C. I'd entertain a motion to go into executive session.
I make a motion that we go into executive session for Title I MRSA, Section 405(6)(c) for real estate matters.
I'll second that.
Any discussion? Did you have some? Okay, all those in favor?
And I think we should vacate to the back room and not make everybody else leave the
Yeah.
premise.
Is it that room or is it the other room? Okay.
We can go straight back. We can take you in either room, but we set up for there if you'd like to go.
Thank you. Couple minutes, I can get a little bit.
Must be the building. But it's funny that. Oh, what a shame. It must be an office. Yeah, it must be. It must be an office are confidential. Yeah. Thinking when you say offer. Yeah.
Maybe just turn that.
Yeah, you can't hear. So go for it. The only one that I know of is Boy Scouts started before. Yeah.
I know, actually. So just.
And it may not have been. Right. So it wasn't the same woman. Well, I think there's an issue with dumping sites. They don't want to deal with it because then they need to do, it's super expensive. They have to do special concrete pads. So it's not cost effective. Like, you know, they're in between months. They're not going to do it. Some of the ground can't be disturbed. Like I know you went out there on. Oh, no. Up on Elm Street, out behind, you know, marked out. Well, I think the article. Yeah. Okay. A couple of weeks later, you wrote the article, I don't know. But somebody made an application. I know. They don't know. Right, they don't know. Well, and actually, I don't think any of them. No. They just come into the post office. That's all. For something about it. I am. I agree that I can have one, make have people happy, people not happy, so it's tough to know. Yeah. Well, all code enforcement officers, that applies too. You're happy with those odds, huh? I haven't heard much about it.
Oh, I can send you.
Can't promise at all,
Oh,
but they'll say.
okay. How much of a mask is down? Yeah, but I haven't seen it. It was nice. Yeah. Yeah. I have mine. He said that I
I got back.
I got that.
Yeah.
I got that.
I
My
think all
only,
of us probably.
my only thing is not that I feel for myself. But I do have the branding. Yeah. They do. And it's hard, but it's. No. So they don't have to, right? They can. Yeah, I don't understand that. That are. Here's the. Right, they're all. That's another thing. You can't. Right. Where are you? Where are you?
I don't.
No, I don't blame them. Because it's a.
I feel bad for the people at Walmart that have to stand there and offer masks.
Do they at Walmart? They actually- They're supposed to wear masks.
Well, they're recommending it, so they have someone
They have
standing at each door.
I have been noticing more people. I have too. I was in a grocery store and everybody had them on. Yeah. I felt like, I don't have mine on.
You don't see this.
I think it's gonna come back, like, it's not what I did practice. Get used to it now. Good. Oh, like, yeah. So, you're good, right? Oh, so they stayed in. Oh, wow. That's good. A lot of, that wasn't the case. Right. Right. Any luck with the police? Getting any applications or any interest for? Figure an extra. Oh, yeah. Not wanting to do it anymore. Yeah, it's not just any bad things. I mean, obviously, the higher paid jobs, yes. But if you have plenty of police, it's not an issue. You always have somebody to take the lower like paying jobs, but police are saying, not for me anymore. I don't want to do that. Job, not appreciate it. Yeah, I need. The guy that caught, on Friday, they paid somebody from his house, he called him, right? No, right, on everyone is so back, right? Well, what do you do? He says, I'm so fast. She's like, no, but.
I have a puppy. I haven't had a puppy in 6 years. They're a lot of work. We're in the, she's 3 months old, so we're still house training. Well, she's just figuring out that she can jump on the couch now, but she can't every time. So like sometimes she'll jump up and it's fine, and other times she'll get up and halfway. It's like we just jumped on the couch 2 minutes ago. And she's been taken out and taken off a couple times. Across the lap, we have chicken. In the morning, and she's done. Thank you. Down. I'm kidding. Not appropriate address. She's on the phone. I'm like, hey, go there. So now I'm like, I'm not taking her out on a beach. I'm not taking her out.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. Yeah.
I make a motion that we come out of executive session.
Second that.
Any discussion? All those in favor? This is 8.1, correct?
Yes.
Okay. So 8.1 is 22 Pleasant Street update. I would entertain a motion to renew the contract with Chad Sylvester, same terms.
Make that
His-
motion.
Okay.
You want me to say it? You just did.
Yeah.
Julie, do you have it?
You wanna-
I make a motion that we renew the contract with the firm that we have at the same terms for the 22 Pleasant Street property.
Yes, Andrew Weiss.
I'll second it.
Okay. Any discussion? You can ask a question. Sure. You're gonna come up to the speak. People at home can't hear you, remember? We gotta be.
Even at home, I've tried this. You really can't hear good at home, even with the mic. I'm not kidding you.
Is that
And-
on? I don't
there's a
hear you
green
in it.
light. There's a
I
green
don't
light.
hear it.
Okay. Want me to follow up? No,
Pretty
just
much.
kidding.
Pretty much.
If you can hear the speaker back there, they can.
Well, I don't care. You want to stay with the company that you have now, trying to sell this building. Has he had any movement with this building? Has he helped you at all with this building? And if he hasn't, why do you want to stay with him? I don't even know the man, so it don't matter. Just ask.
Well, to put it bluntly, it's the market. So we have worked with him and there has been one bite, one walkthrough. And I mean, oh no, we've just been with him for 1 year, but all the while it's been COVID and this market is not good. So we've decided to go with him again because he's making recommendations and we. Yeah. Okay, so did we vote?
No. We're still in the discussion.
Okay, so that was the discussion. All those in favor? So we have also given him the authorization to bring forth a potential contract. So we hope to see you soon.
I agree. Thank you all.
Thank you.
All right, 8.2, council discussion topics and meet the new town manager. Does anyone have anything that they want to discuss before we? No? Right, do you want to do the honors, Mitch?
I will be glad to.
Thank you.
May I, on behalf of our town council and our citizens, introduce Vic Hodgkin. And Vic, would you come to the microphone and tell us a little bit about you? Tell the folks who didn't have the opportunity to interview you.
Sure.
But the grilling process that generally went on.
Okay, I tell you what, I've already talked to you guys, so here's what I'm gonna do.
Turn it around.
I'm gonna do this, okay? All right, look at that. My name is Vic Hodgkins, and in the last few weeks, I've had the honor of going through the hiring process here for the next town manager for your town of Mechanic Falls. And I am honored to have been selected. And hopefully there'll be a vote here in just a little bit. I'm excited at the opportunity of helping you folks make Mechanic Falls the best town to live, work, and play in. And I will look forward to speaking to many of you individually, as well as anytime collectively. I've always had an open door policy. So regardless if you're listening on the internet or if you're here tonight, feel free to reach out to me at any time. Thank you.
Madam Chair,
Yeah.
if I may,
Yes.
would you mind just briefly describing the process and the team that did the interview?
Yes, so we had two staff plus Julie, because she's staff and the council secretary. So we did have three. We had Julie, Lisa, and Alan. We had all three of them for staff, plus all five of us council and Mitch. And we did the first round was just looking through all of the applications. We scored them, and then we decided to bring in the top four. So we did contact the top four. The day before the first interviews, one of them took another job, so that went down to three. Then we interviewed two on the Friday and then one on the Monday because she had something for work, so she couldn't come in. So we did have two we extended it, the executive session. So we met twice. We interviewed three candidates. They had positive things. What it came down to is that we wanted what was best for Mechanic Falls, and Vic had what we were looking for. He had the most experience, and we all talked. We had great conversation, great interviews, questions on both sides. And so we're really looking forward to moving on.
Madam Chair?
Yes. Yes.
I'd also like to add that we all had a list of questions to ask Vic, and those questions came from Mitch. And it was a fair process. Everyone was involved. And it was hard. I would have to say, we put Vic through the ringer.
Yes, because we did
put
have a
him off
second
through the
round.
ringer. Yeah.
Yeah, we did have the second round where we brought Vic back and had more extensive conversation.
Yeah.
Apparently not.
I guess we just wanted to make sure that we had the best choice that we could offer Mechanic Falls.
Yes. Can you? Vic, VIC. Oh,
Have them stand up and talk.
yeah. Do you want to stand up and answer Eric's questions?
All right, the bumper sticker version of the Vic Hodgkins, Vic as in Victor, Hodgkins bio. I worked in broadcast radio for well over 30 years at a local hometown radio station you might be familiar with, WOXO. I started there in March of '84 and had an opportunity to learn every bit of local hometown radio. Had an opportunity during the course of the years to also, at the same time of holding down a full-time job with the radio station, also working part-time at Oxford Plains Speedway back in the late 80s and early 90s. In 2016, I left the radio station to become the Paris town manager. I stayed there for a little bit better than a couple of years. The owner of the radio station had passed away, Dick Gleason. Many of you may know the name or know the person. And I was asked by his wife to come back and to be the general manager of the radio station. And unfortunately, due to COVID, we had to shut that down. And I'm very happy that it's back up and running again with a brand new owner. And we wish Stan Bennett the best. And so in searching for opportunities, where do I go from here? The town of Mechanic Falls offers, you guys got an exciting little town. I'm excited to get going and to see how we can kind of, learn all the storylines and help you wherever we can help you. And make, like I said, make Mechanic Falls the best place to live, work, and play. And so that's a quick little bio. Any other questions? Well, we can discuss that with the council where the vote is happening tonight, assuming they vote and it's affirmative.
Depends on how long you talk.
So I think we could probably arrange a little something maybe at the next meeting if you'd like. I'm going to have an open door policy. So unless I'm in with somebody else or on the phone, certainly I will be more than happy to sit down and have conversations with anybody and anyone in the town of Mechanic Falls about how we can make it even better. Any others? Again, I'm happy to be here. Thank you.
At this point, Madam Chair, there'd be a two-step process that the council ought to engage. The first would be to motion and second to extend a contract for 3 years based on the terms and conditions as negotiated. And in so doing, take the vote on that. And presuming that's a positive vote, then you have 3 signed sheets for 3 original contracts. One will go to Vic, one will be, and the other 2 will actually go to personnel. And that will be attached to the balance of the contract put together, reviewed by our town's attorney. And just so folks know, this contract, the meat and potatoes are really all pages. The first 8 pages are the terms and conditions of employment. The last 8 pages are the ethics policies and guidelines from the International City Managers Association, which every professional manager holds dearly. And they expect people to live by them and work by them.
May I ask a question, Madam Chair? Do we need to suspend Robert's Rules of Order to do this now, or are we just doing this as the council discussion of topic?
They can do it. You have the choice because it does appear later on for action,
Yes.
Okay.
or you can suspend the rules, whatever the council's preference is. When you have a fish on the line, don't play with it.
My next question, though, is it's a legal one. If we do that and we sign a contract with him, he doesn't know that stuff, and that gets you off the hook. So are you going to run out the door on us?
I have made a promise to not only the chair, but to all the members of the council that my consulting agreement continues. And I will be available by phone. I'll be back here tomorrow morning to start the transition. And even if I'm in New York, I will answer the phone.
Yes. I would make a motion, what Mitch said.
Which time? To suspend the rules to allow you to make a formal action
Okay,
on the employment.
okay. So the appointment of a new town manager. So we have a motion.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Right, so I'm going to sign these.
Now you need to make the motion
we
to
haven't
actually
actually-
hire.
That was just suspend Robert's rules.
Oh, that was just.
Well, then I'll make the motion
Okay.
that we hire Vic Hodgkins as the new town manager.
According to the contract,
Terms and conditions.
terms and conditions.
conditions of the contract.
See, we work together.
And who seconded that?
No one.
I
has yet.
will.
Okay, hold a second, take a breath. Julie?
I'm like, you guys think of the speed right now. Rose motion.
Darryl
Daryl seconded.
Okay, so is there any discussion? All those in favor? Welcome aboard.
Welcome aboard.
So I'm just gonna pass them.
Okay.
this
Mr.
way.
Manager, if it pleases you, may I continue? to help facilitate the meeting?
By all means.
Thank you, sir.
I'm nice and calm.
Okay. Now we're on to 8.3, the manager's report. We are offering pillows and no dose. Manager's report for September 7th, 2021. Hope you can all hear me. Town retirement plans. The town currently offers 2 retirement plans, the Main State Retirement System and the ICMA, that's International City Managers Association Retirement Program. ICMA has changed its name of the plan to Mission Square Retirement and periodically makes changes in the investment options for members. We have been notified of 3 fund changes. In each case, ICMA has found a fund that is comparable to the one they are deleting. Any employee who utilizes this plan should contact ICMA to learn more about the 3 changes. That was for FYI.
Okay.
Do you know how many employees we have that do that? Vice the MMA?
So will you just reach out to them to let them know? Is that, okay.
Thank you, Miss Lisa.
Clarification regarding taxability of any solar generating equipment. Please bear with me. I tried not to get legal here. There appears to be several opinions being expressed about the taxability of any solar generating equipment. Any confusion is understandable since the statutes governing the taxing of personal property seem to provide conflicting information. While we seek clarification through the Maine Municipal Association, the prevailing statutes are Title 36, Part 2, Chapter 105, Cities and Towns, subsection 655 and 656. In subsection 655, if read alone, then one might conclude that the equipment is tax exempt. However, when thoroughly through and includes 656, it becomes a bit confusing since there is a procedure that provides for 50% reimbursement of the assessed taxes to the town from another state fund for commercial installations only. In essence, it appears that there is a 50% exemption and not a 100% exemption. The owner of such commercial equipment must apply prior to April 1st of each year in which the exemption is requested. Subsequent changes to the equipment must be reported on the amended application to the assessor. This applies to commercial equipment and not residential equipment serving the same residence. We are also informed that there is a bill before the legislature that, if approved, would provide 100% of the project's assessed value for tax purposes. Let's see where that goes.
But that won't be even touched until next session, correct?
If this session is out, then it would have to be the special session or next session. Update on local marijuana licenses for those who are in fact holders of licenses currently. The code enforcement officer will be notifying the holders of the limited marijuana licenses, reminding them to reapply for their license at least 30 days before the expiration date of their license, allowing for sufficient time to advertise and give proper public notice of the appropriate meetings required prior to any renewal. This notice is only provided this year, and in future years, the holders of licenses must pay attention to their license dates. Failure to reapply will likely mean that the license would be available on a first-come, first-served basis. Contact the code enforcement officer for more information. Economic development in Mechanic Falls. Though my time in town has been limited, my observations are that this community has the potential for new economic development. I base this on several factors. Geographically, Mechanic Falls lies between 2 major urban areas, the Lewiston Auburn community and the Oxford Paris community. Faced with limited funds, moving forward has been tedious to say the least, and perhaps disappointing to all involved. In looking at the community from a 10,000-foot elevation, there is a section of the community that could provide a great benefit since it is already on track. This is the section of Route 26 from the Oxford Mechanic Falls town line south to the area just beyond the old farm. This is what I describe as a corridor of opportunity. What seems to be holding it back is the lack of both water and sewer infrastructure. Therefore, my suggestion to the council, our economic development folks and our planning board is as follows. Develop a plan that establishes a tax increment financing district that would capture new development and taxable value. Develop with the town of Oxford an interlocal agreement for the extension of both their water and sewer through the district from the casino to the point where the farm exists, only if it's cost effective not to try to extend our own water and sewer infrastructure to this location. This zone is on prime section of Route 26 that can sustain commercial and industrial development. If fully developed, it would extend a business corridor that starts at the Five Corners and heads up north well into Oxford and Paris. It would allow for the development to occur per our zoning ordinances while preserving the residential qualities of in most of our town's residential areas. Such development appreciates in value, and over the life of the TIF, any debt would be paid by the added assessed values. At the end of the TIF's life, all of the values of the TIF revert back to the town's full assessed value, which helps our taxpayers. Development of the infrastructure would be initially paid for through a town-approved bond, and yes, until added assessed value occurs, there would be a new amortization line in your town operating budget. However, once development has occurred and new assessed value realized, those new tax receipts are shifted to the TIF, which then pays for the bond. In the latter years of the TIF, captured value could also pay for corridor improvements. This commercial corridor has regional benefits as vacationers and residents alike are attracted to the variety of offerings as well as job opportunities. The added benefit here is that you are focusing your economic efforts on an already proven corridor. Lastly, you are providing added fire protection and water availability, all of which are paid for by users, the very businesses you are attracting. In 20 years, this corridor would continue to provide assessed value just like Hannaford's is doing. I encourage the council to ask your planning board and economic development committee to meet and further review this option. While this is at least a 20-year commitment, it is the foundation upon which the outcomes for the town are great. At this point, I am not suggesting a joint TIF with Oxford, but that remains a possibility as well. In all likelihood, this will be my last official manager's report to you. In serving your community, I've made some observations that I would like to share. Mechanic Falls, like many small rural Maine communities, has some great potential which should be explored. However, you also face the fact that distrust and lack of confidence tends to linger over the very efforts you're achieving for many new options. Your current town council has 5 diverse but committed elected officials who ultimately want the town to succeed in their endeavors. Living with the past issues tends to slow and even destroy the incentives to move forward. Ironically, folks who watch your community realize the potential of economic development and are willing to work with elected and appointed officials. You must position yourselves, your staff, and your committees to be ready to take on a new initiative as they present themselves. Your town staff are good people and dedicated to the work they are involved in. Work with them as these challenges affect them as well. You are fortunate that a person with a wide vision and a business experience will become your next town manager. Build upon that and commit yourselves to seeing Mechanic Falls reach its full potential while preserving the very qualities of rural living in Maine. Thank you for the opportunity to have served your community. Respectfully, Mitchell A. Berkowitz, Interim Town Manager.
Thank you very much, Mitch.
I'd have to say, again, thanks. Mitch. You brought us through some difficult times.
Thank you.
8.4, approval of 3% raise. Do you want to give a little bit more information on this? Lisa?
Oh, okay.
Oh.
No, that's mine. I
Okay.
apologize. We were throwing darts and I won this one.
Okay.
As part of your responsibilities as a town council is obviously to well balance your team that produces the services against the costs of providing those services. And you have battled over several years in trying to provide the services, but are losing the battle on keeping quality of people available. I am recommending that as of September 1, 2021, that you authorize a 3% across the board increase to all personnel, hourly or salary. You want to retain good people and you've got them. This is in conjunction with the fact that you've authorized the police chief to use his discretion in attempting to also provide the necessary law enforcement personnel that are needed. So if in fact you can find it in your hearts, there is a strategy that might be available under COVID, and Vic and I will have to research that a little bit, but it'll fall on his shoulders. We believe that because of the nature of what has happened over the last 15 months to 2 years, we have become less competitive in the marketplace. And in order to change that, we need to show something. And what people are looking for are not only a good working environment, a rural area of the way Maine should be, but also the dollars and cents to be able to afford to live there. So I'm asking that you authorize a 3% cost of living effective to the base, effective September 1, 2021.
And will that be everybody, Mr. B, including the police chief?
Yes, across the board.
With their union contract, even though they have contract.
He doesn't have a union contract and we don't have any officers right now. So
And they're silently supporting our efforts. And we hope to be able, as I said, Vic and I will have to look at the ARPA funds because we may fall into the reality of what we have done is become less competitive and we need to be more competitive.
I'd entertain a motion to approve, to accept it.
I'll move that we accept the 3% raise to be effective on 9/1/21.
I second that. Any discussion?
If ARPA is not available, what line in our budget would it come from?
It's probably going to fall to the bottom of the budget in terms of additions. And we hope that we'll have underexpended to a large degree in some of the departments as you did the year just ending June 30th, 2021. And that means you have already been authorized to spend that sum of money. But that's really where it's going to have to come from. But I think as I am looking at the ARPA funding and some of the requirements, we as a county, and I've got county figures for Vic, we have to be within 150% of what the county average is. And I think we're going to be able to do that and justify straight face to the reporting agencies why we're using the ARPA funds for that purpose.
And when do those funds become available? Do we have a date yet?
We do not. The state has a portal for which we must register to pay attention. And the ARPA funds will come in 2 different times, one in this year and one in next year, approximately $157,900, something like that each year. And I have shared with you, and I will continue to share with Vic, the idea of LIFO, last in, first out, meaning the last monies that come in are likely to be ARPA this year, and they'd be the first monies to be expended, leaving the balance of appropriations as a carryover fund into the next fiscal year from your appropriations.
May I?
Yes, can you speak into the microphone so everyone can hear you, please? Thanks.
I'll need Lisa to correct me if I'm wrong. But I also believe kind of backstopping this whole concept, of which I certainly am in favor of, and I'm the new kid on the block here. Did we not, in fact, get more revenue sharing money than what we thought we were going to get for this current fiscal year? Okay, so that backstops it. Because your budget was based on the estimated, in part, on the estimated number that we're going to get from Maine State revenue sharing. And I believe that it's some figure of around 150,000 more. Some such, I remember seeing. And anyways, it's a substantial figure. For the current fiscal year.
For the year ending June 30th. It's at least another $100,000 more. Yeah.
Yeah, so I almost remember seeing that in the minutia of all the paperwork. So that's my only comment is, is that even if Mitch's game plan is not successful, it's not instantly, oh my gosh.
Mhm.
There is another backstop there.
If in fact, Madam Chair, you concur and agree with that, I also have here kind of a COVID appreciation letter to all of our individual employees. And it expresses some of the same feelings that COVID was established for in terms of payments. But the very bottom line says, the Mechanic Falls Town Council, capital, we thank you. That will go to each employee with that as well.
Thank you. Yes.
And this is paid over the balance of the fiscal year, 3%, and that's the new rate each pay period. It's not one lump sum.
Huh? Yep, and there was discussion, so all those in favor?
Okay.
8.5 RFP for audit services.
Hi, Lisa Prevost, your town treasurer. So I handed you out copies of the audit for the year ending 2020 tonight. And that same auditor will be doing our audit for the year ending June 30th of 2021. However, they are short-staffed, and the person who's been usually doing our audit has decided that they're going to move away from municipal auditing. So after this last audit that they're going to be doing for us this fall, they won't be doing our audit anymore. So we have to be audited every year. So we put an RFP out for proposals for a new auditor. Mitch and I put the proposal together and we mailed it out to 6 different firms. And I believe we gave them until November 15th to respond. As of right now, I've only heard back from one firm who says that they are not taking any new clients right now, but hopefully we'll hear better stuff from the other firms that I have presented this out to.
So you'll just keep us up to date. As they come in, you'll just let us know.
Well,
monthly.
they're supposed to be sealed bids, so we're going to be opening them on November 15th, I think.
Oh,
and
okay,
we're
once you get
presenting
all
the-
of them.
Yes,
Okay.
and then you get the chance to review them and decide who you want to, if you want to interview them or, and then make your selection.
May I ask a question? Worst case scenario and nobody responds, then where does that put us?
We will have to put out another request and see if we can get somebody to be interested. Because we will have to be audited. It's a requirement. We do it every year. So hopefully we're giving them enough lead time so that if we have to go out a second time, we can still make that happen before our fiscal year ends next year. Like I said, the one that June 30th of 2021, Smith and Associates will be doing that audit for us. So we still have some time.
Thank you, Lisa. 8.6 codification choices. Do you have those, Mitch, or do you
I'm
have those?
wondering
Ellen?
if our code enforcement officer might want to give us a little spotlight on that effort.
Yeah, Alan Plummer, Code Enforcement Officer. So because it was voted for in the budget and you approved the budget to include codification, I put out an RFP a while ago in July. Got 3 companies replied. 2 sent us a proposal. 1 didn't send us a proposal because they said on the East Coast they really can't compete. They're a West Coast company. So I did look at 2 codification companies. They submitted proposals, General Code and Unicode. I get really excited when I see this stuff. primarily because I'm a geek. But I think it's going to be very beneficial for this town in more ways. As I just think about these things, the stuff that this is going to do for the town is going to be just a huge step above where we're at right now. Right now, our ordinances, for the most part, are in notebooks in the back office on paper. So the codification company, I put some highlights there. I did put the pricing and things like that. And I suggested the company that I think would be a good idea to go with. And I put the reasons down below, and I'll talk to you about those. You have that in your packet, but I'll say it for the public. So the differences are General Code is the company that I'd like to suggest we use. They came in about $4,000 less than their original quote to us when I first approached them. First of all, Unicode is the other company. Their estimated price, and the price that I'm talking to you about is for about a 2 to 2.5 year process, where they look over our ordinances, update language through us in cooperation with the planning board, but they update language, they look at redundancy, they look at overlap and things like that, make suggestions to us. They send it back to us. The planning board looks at stuff. You guys are going to have to approve it. And then it goes back to the company. And we continue to do this for a 2.5 year period. So it kind of cleans up all of our ordinances and things that overlap and don't work and they're out of place, those kind of things. So Unicode is the company that I'm not particularly interested in. Their initial quote for that 2.5 year time period is $11,450. General Code is $7,284. So a substantial difference. Then there's an annual maintenance fee. Those are about the same. General Code is $1,195. And if you notice in the packet that I gave you, that's the highest level that we could opt in for. We can change that. The reason I like that highest level of an annual renewal is it allows for citizens to sign up for an update alarm. So anytime an ordinance gets changed, they'll get an email saying, hey, something changed in Mechanic Falls to do with ordinances. You can go take a look. So everything will be online, which is a great benefit for everybody, and it's going to be searchable. So they'll be able to type in if they want to know if they can keep chickens in Mechanic Falls. Type in chickens, everything related to chickens in Mechanic Falls will pop up. Great benefit. So the Unicode cost for the annual maintenance, by the way, is about the same. The top end of theirs is $1,195 as well, the same as General Code. Updates after that are going to cost money as we go along. But the thing that I really like is being a code enforcement officer, and I look back through the files and I see code enforcement officers in the past and huge inconsistencies between one and the next, and the next, and the next. This will provide consistency with your ordinances. Regardless of if I leave next year or 5 years from now, your code will be in these people's hands, not like they own it. We can get it anytime we want. We can just say, no, we don't want to use you anymore. Give it to us in a format that we can use, and we can take it back. No problem. That's updated per page is $18 for General Code, $19 from Unicode. General Code, one of the biggest advantages of using that company is they have 24 current Maine towns as their customers. Unicode has 4 towns in Maine. We have access as staff, as the town staff, to look at those ordinances for any of those Maine towns in their database. So we can type in chickens and we can see all the ordinances of those 24 towns and what they have for ordinances about those. So if we're looking to adjust our ordinance, then we can research that just in Maine. Huge benefit for us.
So you could type in solar and find more.
Solar
information.
and 24 communities, we can see what they have for solar. Yep. And just as a general comment, as I work through the RFP process, General Code, I'll call them up or send them an email, get right back to me. Only heard from Unicode one time. That's a big difference, especially when we're looking to give them money.
Mm-hmm.
So lots of benefits, and some of those I highlighted on. If you have questions about what will benefit, what will the benefits be from codification, feel free to ask.
The
Get kind of
attorney
nervous if
thing.
you're talking about.
Tell
What?
about the attorney thing.
Right, we can ask them. So it's not just some computer people that we send our codes to. It's a team of attorneys that review our ordinances and put them in the proper order, proper situation, format them correctly. If you look at our ordinances now, one might have section or chapter, section, and another one might not have that at all. But they do all of that. That's all organized every time the same way. And we can say, what do you have out there for ordinances about radio towers? Can you tell us what you got? Or here's our ordinance that we did for solar. What do you guys think about this? Have you seen any that are really good, you think are rock solid and it would help us in any kind of court situation? And they will tell us that. That's pretty cool. That's pretty good stuff.
What did
pretty
we,
neat.
what did we budget? What did we ask
The
for in
budget was, no, I think it was, well, the quote we got from them was 10. I think it was 13.
13 comes to my mind.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So 13 is budgeted. And like I said, that 1195 is on the high end of the maintenance. We could go cheaper, which is like $600 or $700, and we lose some of the options that we could have with that higher tier. But we can drop back to that if we want. If we don't like it, we're not using something, don't find it beneficial, we can drop down to a lesser annual fee. That doesn't mean, and I want to be very clear, that doesn't mean that's the only cost we're going to incur for that next year. If we do a lot of ordinance changes and a lot of stuff, it's going to cost us more. But I just think it will provide so much more continuity than we have now. It's
Yeah, we definitely
gonna
addressed
be
this
night
as
and
an
day.
important issue.
Yeah.
So we need to put the money where the important stuff.
Yep.
Alan, are these 24 towns, are they kind of a variety of main towns?
Yes.
From small to large?
They are. I can get it off my desk if you want me
No,
to, but
no.
yeah, it ranges from Augusta to can I remember all different towns. The ones that I called first of all are towns about our size, from 2,000 to 4,000, and I called all them. Didn't get a bad word from any of the people that work with this company.
And how many, do you know how many communities have codification?
No. Well, I know
28.
24 and 20. Yeah, 28.
No,
at
no,
least.
but I'm sure there are other programs out there.
Oh, you mean other that provide codification?
No, other towns that have codification, but maybe have a different company that carries it.
There aren't a ton of companies that do this. So we advertised for them and we didn't get a lot of,
You got 3, right? And
Okay, so
one
we
was
got
West
3
Coast?
total, yeah.
Okay.
and there aren't a ton. And some of the people that I called in different towns that don't have anything in it, and I asked if they were looking for it, didn't really understand what I was talking about when I was talking about codification. They need to get on a different plane too.
So you'll be able to communicate with these 24 towns.
We'll have access to their ordinances. We won't necessarily be talking specifically to them, but we'll have a portal that we can type in. It's a specific place we can type in whatever we want, and we'll see anything in their whole database that is part of their ordinance.
Because it's all public information.
It is
Yeah.
it's all public, but we'll have an access specifically. We can say, we want to look at all these towns stuff related to whatever topic it is,
Okay.
barking dogs or.
If I may, right now, what he has to do is when we're trying to formulate a new ordinance, he literally has to call the codes officers in every town and say, hey, the ones that he thinks are appropriate. You have an ordinance on this. If you do, what is it? Where can I find it? Can I get a copy of it? And it's a lot of excessive man hours and time that could be spent better
And it's
elsewhere.
really hard to get in touch with the code officer.
Yeah.
I'm telling you.
Even
It's
from
just-
one
it's-
code officer to the next?
It is, it doesn't matter.
Probably more so.
Thank you.
If I may,
Yes.
Madam Chair, codifying one's community's codes is a coming uppance, if you will. Most of your smallest of communities generally don't codify, and I'm saying small, under 1,000. Those who recognize that it's as important to have it codified are either on the wealthy side or just simply committed to doing the right thing. You're at that point where once you have a strong foundational base and everything is codified, that which you add to it becomes easier as time goes on, not only for understanding, but for enforcement, and enforcement is part of that.
They'll also look at modernization of our language even. So I know we have one place that says prohibition on dogs chasing the paper boy. They're gonna go, do you need that? Do you want us
It's
to?
now UPS.
Is something different here? So we can update that language.
Okay.
No questions?
No, but you're looking for a motion to approve your choice,
Yes.
which is the general.
General code.
Okay. Well, I would entertain a motion.
I make a motion that we approve general code for doing codification of our town ordinances.
I second that. Any discussion? All those in favor? New business, 9.1, final audit report for 2019, 2020.
Hi, as I mentioned earlier, I presented you with the audit that was for the year ended June 30th of 2020. I'm pleased to report that there are no negative findings in there. The audit went fine. I have a pretty good relationship with our auditor. We've been dealing with them for a long time. I know there's a lot of information in there to look through, and it's extremely boring, even for somebody like me who does numbers all the time. You're welcome to, of course, ask me any specific questions, but I can tell you there's a note in there towards the back about fund balance. What is recommended for minimum fund balance, where the town actually stands for fund balance at 1.2 as of the end of when that audit ended. So that's looking good. I don't know if you have any other specific questions you want to ask me about it.
Good job.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So if there was anything that we needed to know about, they would have written that in the beginning, correct? And brought it to our attention.
Yes, you
Okay.
would have received, there are, like I said, there are some extra loose pages there towards the back that are actually her letters that are addressed to you as the council,
Yeah.
letting you know what their findings were.
Yeah.
She goes through a number of points there, but it's generally positive stuff. I didn't find anything significant that differed from what it should be. There is some discussion in there about the fund balance, where your minimum should be, where the town's fund balance is. Review it. If you do have any questions later, come forth. But yes, I would definitely let you know if there was something negative or anything. And I do believe that she mentioned that we should update our policy for record retention. But other than that, all good stuff.
Not to put you on the spot, however, I notice we don't do an MD&A. That's a management discussion and analysis, which gets to the heart of some of what you're talking about. Is that an extra charge that they do, or is that something that we can ask them to include in the RFP?
It's something we can ask them to include in the RFP. Previous management, there was some work that was going to be done on our part for that. Previous management had decided to not include that. And that's the way it's been for the past I don't know, a number of years.
I would ask you going forward to have consideration of that topic because it brings us up to the standards and it pinpoints management's responsibilities to a large degree of the very assets that we're in charge of. And it answers some of your questions. But
They're called MDA.
MD&A, management's discussion and analysis. And it gets to the heart of were we attentive to watching the funds and the way we operate. However, the last statement is the absence of that is that, in our opinion, on the basic financial statements, they are not affected by the missing information. And that tells everything too.
I would entertain a motion to accept. the
I make a
audit.
motion that we accept the final audit report for 2019 to 2020 with
Second.
thanks.
Thank you, Lisa. Rose seconded that. Any discussion? All those in favor? Okay, so 9.2.
Before you move to the next thing, I just wanted to make one point. I told myself to repeat this, but I get so nervous when I get up here. The general code company, when you go to the website, it will be called eCode 360. So that's the website portal that people will be looking
Okay.
at. So I
I
just
did
want to
see
make
that in
sure.
it.
Yeah, so eCode 360 is what you'll see when you go online.
Okay, thank you. Yep, 9.2 is complete. 9.3, PSAP and dispatch contract. Looking-
Overly simplified, it's a contract that we have and the county handles the dispatching, I believe, and they are asking us to renew the contract. And I think that's where you should do. I think the board chair ought to sign that one.
So does Vic need to sign the contract papers?
It has the choice of
I'm talking about his contract.
his
I think it
contract
went
now.
back to you and it has not gone. Have you
They're on
signed
the
it?
corner.
They're right here.
Okay.
Again, I'm flexible.
No, I know, but it was on there. I'd like to get it done.
And call them up and have them
Okay. Oh,
sign.
yes, let's do
And,
this.
and Steve, you've got some comment. Great.
Yes, yes, please.
I have.
Oh,
Does
yeah,
that
oh,
need-
good.
Does that need to be notarized?
Witnessed. If you notice, he's signing the signature page only, so we can attach anything to the underside that we want.
Now, can you print and can you print a bunch of it on the back?
Thank you.
And I'll interrupt the meeting. Sign it.
Congratulations.
Congratulations. Welcome aboard.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Welcome aboard.
Okay, so Steve,
As
you're gonna,
most of you may or may not know, I'm the chairman of the Board of Selectmen in Minot. We've had discussions, there's one tonight that I'm missing, and 2 weeks ago, we spoke with the sheriff and the county administrator on the PSAP issue. Back in the early 2000s, I was co-chairman of the PSAP committee. I missed the first meeting, so I ended up as co-chairman. And so the discussions went on and on and on. And Lawson and Auburn had their thoughts and the rest of the towns had their thoughts. And we went back and forth, back and forth. And finally, there were three commissioners at the time, Randy Greenwood, Elaine Makis, and Beth.
I was going to say something, but I'm gonna know.
What?
I missed your comment. So of negotiations here. So I guess what I'm suggesting to you is pay attention. Your bill's gonna go from what, probably 18,000 or something to Close to 100,000.
You're kidding me.
38,000 is on one.
$38,766.49 is this year.
This year's?
And it
Okay.
was 18?
No.
No, I'm sorry.
Oh.
That might have been mine. It's
Yeah.
Our
Oh.
bill last year
Yes.
was probably somewhere around 35, 36.
Okay,
It's a per capita rate right now, I think.
okay.
And so anyway, I'm just saying, pay attention because there's going to be, could be some major changes. And I think the towns need to be vocal about what happens.
Okay, thank you.
But the bill will go up substantially.
But what do we have for negotiating power? Nothing? This is just, it is as it is? Mitch?
Yeah,
Negotiating power?
Yeah, there's
There
none.
isn't.
This is like the county tax. You just have to pay it.
Yeah.
Okay,
Pretty
I'm
much.
just wanting
You can
to,
bark, you can bite,
okay,
but if they shut you off, you got a problem.
okay.
we also have
Okay.
a county commissioner. This is Fred from Mechanic Falls Fire. We also have a county commissioner that she's a Mechanic Falls resident, so we can let her know to represent us for that.
Okay. And who is that?
I don't have her name right now. I just know.
Terry Kelly.
Terry Kelly? Does that sound familiar?
Yes, yes.
Okay. All right, so I would entertain a motion to,
And she lives on Libby Road if anybody wants to find her.
okay.
All right, I move we accept the dispatch contract for PSAP.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Okay, so Julie, I need to sign this and then give it to you.
Yeah. And then I'll sign it. with Lisa.
I'm not sure. I just need to have a copy of it. Do I just need to, is this copy for me? This it says chair. Okay.
And it becomes a public document to anyone else who
Okay.
wants it.
This is not working. All right, 9.4, the main power option Constellation contract. Do you want to tell us a little more about that, Mitch?
I can try to do the best I can. A little background. Many, many, many years ago, municipalities recognized that they really didn't have a whole lot of bargaining power when it came to electricity. You've got to remember, there's the generation part of it, there's the transmission part of it, poles and wires, and then there's the consumer part of it, or the kilowatt itself. And so the state of Maine, in its good wisdom, allowed the Maine Power Options Group to MPO to establish itself. And it worked with communities throughout the state as a consortium for buying. And each year you have participated as a town in a portion of those three by buying your electricity at a cheaper rate than it would normally be on the open market. With what has happened over the last 12 to 15 months globally, not just here in the United States, among other things, petroleum products have shot up. And the price of a kilowatt that you would be purchasing now for the next year, 12 to 24 months, is clearly not going to be the pennies of 0.071 that it normally would have been. It's gone up to as high as 0.0962 for medium size accounts. And we have a total of 11, 2 of which are medium and 9 are what they call small accounts. So in talking with MPO's director today, the recommendation that we have for you, the council, to authorize is of the total of the 11 accounts that we have, to authorize us to execute a contract for 12 months for the 2 medium accounts. And for the remaining 9 accounts, to also authorize it, but for 24 months, because we don't see the small accounts making major adjustments in a 12-month period. The belief is, and the strategy would be that come this spring, where your medium-sized account goes through quite a bit of kilowatts just for the 2 accounts, you may have better, when we lump them all together, those who belong to the consortium might get a better price for another 12 months. What are we talking about? Well, the smaller accounts, if you were just to do a 1-year account, is 8.237 cents a kilowatt. But we're talking 2 years, so that drops it down to 0.07623. We're dealing with pennies, but when you have that many kilowatts, that begins to total out. And for the medium-sized accounts, if you only did it for 1 year, you'd be going 9.62 cents. And they're recommending that we look at that strictly as a 1 year, because in a year from now, we may have some bargaining power, and the combined total of whatever that increase or decrease may be, plus what you're locking in now, will still be potential savings.
Okay.
So the recommendation before you is to do the small accounts for standard offer and the 2 medium accounts for 1 year. And the standard offer would go for 2 years.
2 years.
If you approve that motion, then your next town manager will sign off on this. And if it comes in differently, there's a little electrodes in the chair that he sits in. No, and that's probably the best we're going to do right now, because all told, this is probably a month or 2 worth of kilowatts in a big city.
Okay, so you're saying the small ones are going to be for 24 months, we're
Yes.
renewing a contract, and the 2 medium ones is for a year, because we think in a year it may change.
Yes. Yes, and I'm going to read it to you, and hopefully it covers everything, so you don't have to try to create the motion.
Okay.
Motion to authorize the town manager to execute the necessary electric energy contract with the MPO, Main Power Options, as follows. The 2 medium accounts for a period of 12 months, and the balance of those accounts, well, the balance of 9 accounts will be for 24 months, allowing for a review in the springtime. And again, the smaller accounts are for the standard offer.
Okay. And this is your recommendation?
That is
based
my
on your
recommendation
information
after
you've been
talking with MPO today.
Okay.
Sorry, it's first confusing, but we're dealing with pennies, which come out to dollars.
Yep.
Can we do this by saying so moved?
Right, yes.
And you have to vote on it.
Okay.
I'll second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Thank you.
Okay. 10.1, comprehensive plan revised 2013. Do you have information about this?
Just a general comment, because the action that I would be recommending is that you, your manager, and your code enforcement officer and staff have the conversation with the community about updating your comprehensive plan. What people saw back 10, 12, 15 years ago may not really be the direction you're going in. Case in point, if you decide a TIF is appropriate at a location, that you ought to build into the plan. The state planning office, which still collects these, tries to get them updated every 10 to 15 years, and you're long overdue. The words that I would also advise, if you do, is to look for people who are realistic and that the goals that they have for the community are both attainable and sustainable. We will never become Disney World, regardless of how much money we put into overhead gondolas. But we may become the beneficiary of the two major areas to our east and our west. And comprehensive planning helps the code officer and a whole lot of other things, including budgets, as you're moving forward.
Where can we find the comprehensive plan?
Online.
It's on the,
I think we have it in digital format already on the website.
It might be in your governance documents on the iPad.
okay.
And so the other part is tonight, if you agree that that is something you would like to do, or agree that you want to postpone the discussion and spend a workshop on it, I would encourage you to do either one, but include and invite the planning board to come into the workshop. It's a public meeting, but effectively see if you can all get your thoughts together and then put out the request for volunteers and applications, interview and attempt to create a committee, a large committee that represents the different components of your community, and hopefully have the juice to bring it to a recommendation for an updated comprehensive plan that will help you in guiding your equipment, which is a function of how many streets miles you've got, how much you have to take care of for street lights, all of those factors that happen with a growing community, as opposed to, we don't need to plan, we'll just deal with it as it happens.
Madam Chair, if I may, can we ask the CEO how he feels on this?
Can you speak into the microphone, please?
So 10 to 15 years for updating is, we're on the outside edge of that. So I don't know that there's a rush to do that, but definitely in the next couple of years, we want to start putting things together to get there. Just in discussing with the planning board and their thoughts about the comprehensive plan, the way it is now and the way life is now, there's dramatic differences in what they think and the ideas that they're thinking, and what direction they think to go. So it's maybe a little early to be doing that, but there's been a lot of changes in the last couple of years or 5 years. So I think it's a good idea.
And the other thing too is that any ordinances that are put together and passed, they have to meet the comprehensive plan in order to be put into place. So if we decide we want to change something drastic in a certain zone and the comprehensive plan says, no, it's going to remain rural, that unless that comprehensive plan is changed, that stays rural till the comprehensive plan is changed.
A comprehensive plan committee will be functioning for at least 24 to 36 months.
Yeah.
If they do their business properly. They don't meet every week, they meet maybe once a month, every other month, but it takes time. And sometimes you need to look back to know where you're going forward.
Took us 3 years, almost 3 years to last.
Merely a recommendation.
All right, we have some 10.2 abatements.
I'm delegating the city clerk to do this.
Okay.
Please.
Okay, so I do have a couple recommendations from O'Donnell Associates for some abatements. Unfortunately, some errors have been made, so that's where abatements come in. The first one is for personal property on Gossberry Farms. When O'Donnell did their assessment for their personal property, they failed to leave out $10,000 worth of property that shouldn't have been taxed on. So O'Donnell is recommending that we abate $216 off of Gosberry's personal property bill for 2022. That's the first one. The second one is 14 High Street. Apparently, when the mobile home was placed, nobody ever assessed it. So they're recommending that we send them a supplemental bill to pay for the building. Their supplemental value would be $38,109, and they're recommending that we send the homeowner a bill for $806.39 to pay for the building that was never assessed. So that was luckily a good catch. So that is a good thing because it's a supplemental bill, additional, not taking away. The second one or third one was an abatement request for a Kimberly Voisine. She sold some land and they did not split it properly on the tax bill, and they are requesting that we abate $56.16. They billed her for 7.6 acres and it should have been 5 acres. So there's another one. Another one was for Great America Financial Services for personal property. The wrong depreciation was used on this account from O'Donnell Associates. So they are requesting that we abate $59.83 off of their personal property bill. They originally were assessed at $16,530 and they should have been assessed at $13,760. Sorry, there's quite a few of these. The next one is for a Jesse Childs of 32 Dunlop Avenue. That mobile home was moved out of the park and was never taken out of our accounts to not be assessed. So we are asking to abate for under the clerk's office $295.42 because the property is no longer in Mechanic Falls. Another one is a gentleman who apparently applied for a veterans exemption form last year during COVID. I do remember speaking to Nick from the sewer department, came over and talked to us about it. I'm not sure what happened to his application. So he did not get the exemption form, the exemption that he should have qualified for. So the tax office is asking for $110.16 worth of an abatement off of his property taxes. The next one is somebody applied for a homestead. It did not get entered into the Trio system, and we are requesting for a Joshua Daigle on Pigeon Hill for $459 for his homestead exemption that he should have received in his 2022. Same thing for 3 Terrell Avenue, and Mercedes Archer. She filled out the homestead. It was missed. And that is also for $459 that we're asking to abate. And the last one is the very large error that you guys are already aware about. Auburn Manufacturing. There was a clerical error in the values that were entered into the system. They were assessed at $1.6 million in property, and it really should have been $185,000 that they were assessed at. So the abatement is for $31,253.69 that we need to abate from the personal property for Auburn Manufacturing, which is one of the reasons why we have to go out to the voters in November, because we don't have enough in our overlay to cover this one abatement. And that is it. And I'm hoping I don't have to come back to you with any more abatements.
Norma Crabtree, 23 Highland Avenue. I'm not sure if I was hearing as you went down through them. I believe you mentioned names and addresses. I believe until you came to the one for the homestead. And then the one before that, that's on a yellow paper. I don't recall hearing any names or addresses.
I'm sorry. The veterans exemption form was for Ramon Duchette of 296 Lewiston Street. That was the $110.
The yellow paper.
That was this one, Ramon. The homestead exemption was for a Joshua Daigle at 144 Pigeon Hill. And the other one was for a Mercedes Archer at 3 Terrell Avenue.
Thank you.
Sorry.
So given that, can we make a motion to accept all of these at once? And if we didn't? I don't have any, I don't have any negotiating power here, do I?
If you don't accept it, they don't get it. But
And they probably know where you live.
Yeah, this is true. Okay, well, I would entertain a motion to approve these abatements and the one supplemental bill. Okay. I'll second it. Any discussion?
I have one question. Can Miss Lisa tell the public where the money will be taken from when we do the referendum?
Okay, in my time here as your finance director, treasurer, we've always budgeted extremely conservatively, which means usually we don't spend everything that we have appropriated, and generally we have some extra coming in for revenue than what we budgeted for. It is my hope that when we get to the end of the year, we will have money left over in both of those places that would fall down into undesignated fund balance. That extra money that we would need to grant the abatements would come from your undesignated fund balance. It would do that even if I come out exactly, we spend every single penny that we budgeted for in appropriations, and we collected only exactly what we said for revenues. You do have undesignated fund balance. And as you would see from your audit reports, we do have sufficient undesignated fund balance to grant these abatements without hurting the town's finances.
Thank you so much for explaining that for the public.
I guess I have a question statement. We're just fixing errors to make it a fair tax for everyone. I mean, there's all legitimate reasons for this, that they've been in error or an oversight or whatever, however you want. I don't want to throw blame, but it's an oversight has happened. And because of that oversight, we need to make it so that they're paying their share like everybody else. We're not asking for something
more, no
special.
less.
This is not asking for special treatment for any of these situations.
Okay, all those in favor? .3, the GA maximum and updated ordinances. Okay, so we talked about this earlier, correct?
Yeah.
We just
and
need a motion to approve it, to accept it as the new
as the
ordinance.
new supplement for the year.
Okay.
need them to sign the ones that came from Odo. Not the ones from the tax office.
I'll make that motion that we accept the GA maximum and updated ordinance.
I'll second that motion.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Who seconded it? Paula?
Paula.
We'll stop.
Okay, 10.4, renewal for the retail marijuana license at 420 Pharma.
I'm looking at the wrong thing. The Sept.
Sure.
As I started thinking about renewal for those retail places in town that have been open for a year, I started looking at the wording in the application and the use permit. And it wasn't really clear what they need to do to renew. So I started talking to the retail people in town, and Mr. Clark got his renewal application in just in time to be on this
Okay.
council meeting and
Right
have a
here.
public hearing. So I have it here. That was a good thing. So I have notified everyone that that's the process. This is the process. You need to get your application in, and I'm not going to remind you anymore. You have to do it in plenty of time for public notice and all that kind of stuff. So I've been to Mr. Clark's establishment and looked over everything I need to look at for code enforcement. The fire department has gotten there, and so has the police department. So everything
Okay.
looks up to snuff. No real changes from last year, and everything is the way it's supposed to be. So
And
no
we have
complaints.
4 total licenses.
We do.
So this is one. So next month, is it next month that'll need to be, the others will need to be renewed?
No, there's a little spaced out.
Oh,
So,
okay.
it's a little bit different. I do want to give you a little bit of a heads up. Because the state hasn't issued really retail or recreational licenses yet, and we do have those licenses are out there and possible for our companies in town to use. They haven't been licensed, and that's to no fault of their own. So as long as that continues to happen, we're going to keep extending those permits, even though they're not using those licenses per se. If at some point the state starts issuing those recreational licenses and 1 or 2 places in town start selling recreational marijuana, at that point, people that have licenses and don't move forward and seem to be holding them have been notified. We're going to probably look to take action if you have a license, you're not using it, and you're just holding on to that because you want to hold on to it. Because we want people as a town, we want a business there. We've given 4 business licenses out. We want 4 businesses to operate, not 1 business to hold something, possibly. So they're well aware of that moving forward.
Thank you.
And with that, if you approve it, the chair is being asked to then sign on behalf of the council date. This will complete the permit report that has to stay on file.
I would entertain a motion.
That we renew the retail marijuana license for 420 Pharma.
I'll second that. Any discussion? All those in favor? Those opposed? Are you recusing yourself?
2 recusals.
Abstaining.
Those 2?
2 abstaining.
Please. They need to make that statement. They don't need
That
to
was
say
approved
why.
with 3, correct?
Madam Chair,
Yes.
City Town Clerk makes a very good point. Folks are allowed to recuse, but they need to verbalize it themselves, not by someone for them,
Okay.
please.
Okay, I abstain from that vote or recluse. So
Do you want to abstain or recuse? Because isn't that two separate?
Yes.
I want to
recuse.
abstain from the
You want to
vote.
abstain?
Abstain?
I abstain from that
Okay.
vote as well.
Oh, I just put the wrong date. Can I change it? That's why I did it.
Well, all you had to do is make a motion to adjourn. You could go home.
No, I wouldn't do that.
We can have the chair just initial it.
Yeah, I did fix it.
Is that for the GA thing? I think that's
The abatement.
Abatement. If we just keep that one for us. Give the other ones to where they need to go. Do you want me to initial it?
This goes to Al.
My wife does that for me, so I don't have to worry about it. It's past my bedtime.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I think I owe a person in the audience an apology, but I'm not sure. Steve, I asked you to come tonight to speak about something. Am I correct, or you're here just enjoying yourself?
Oh.
Okay.
I did speak on the pumping station, but if you're concerned about the land, I can address that.
Sure. Great.
Okay. The water department owns about 80 acres of land out on Winterbrook Road. And originally we had 17 acres, and there was a major battle in court over buying the land. It was Penny Trust, and there was 3 different appraisals, and the lawyers got together and had a hell of a fight, and we ended up paying a lot of money for the land. A couple of years later, the Penny Trust calls us up and says, "Hey, we got another 50 acres. You want to buy it? Here's the price." And it was great. So we ended up with about 80 acres and all. And it's our watershed, and it's the aqua protection zone. And there was some confusion, I guess you, for lack of a better word, about who owns the land and who has care, custody, and control over it. We are a department of the town. Everything we own, the town owns. So the land, technically, according to deeds and all, belongs to the town, although it was bought with water department money. So we like to think that land is ours. And because of that, the Public Utilities Commission has to say whether or not we can part with any of that land. So if anyone was to think we were going to part with that land, there's a process to go through. And I have probably 4 copies of different laws from the PUC that tell us how we have to go about it. I think it's just one of those things that different personalities set then we bought it. And so it's kind of been out of sight, out of mind. And so the subject has come up again. And we at the water department like to think it's our land. We paid for it, even though the deed says Town of Mechanic Falls. So we're pretty adamant that we know what's going on that land, and we don't care to part with it. And if we do, the public utilities have to give us permission to do that. So
Okay.
it's more confusion than anything, I think, and it brought the subject up, and I think it's been put to bed.
Okay, thank you for that.
You
And
bet.
Madam Chair, if I may, I contacted the Registry of Deeds, and they said that for a paltry fee of like $15, we can have the deed amended so that it says not only the Town of Mechanic Falls, but / Mechanic Falls Water Department. So that way, if anybody has any questions down the road, the water department will know about it, because they'll go to the water department most likely before they come into the town, vice what's been going on since they purchased that land, where individuals come into the town and talk to the town, and then the poor water department finds out happenstance that somebody's interested in it.
So ultimately, it's the town's, would be the town's decision, but we would have to go through the PUC to,
Right, that's
to
the
get-
confusing part. The deeds read the Town of Mechanic Falls,
right,
but it was bought with, and I can show you a copy of the check,
Yep.
water department money.
Okay,
And so that's where confusion lies.
okay.
Well, is not the water department money the town's money?
No,
It's not.
no, the water
They have a
department
different
money is
budget.
generated through ratepayers,
Okay,
not through tax.
okay, it's not that. That's
right,
thank
yeah.
you.
Yep.
Yeah, no, I'm sitting out of
And-
ignorance. I asked that out of ignorance.
And to add to the confusion, we're a department of the town, as the sanitary is a district, not part of the town.
Okay,
And so I probably shouldn't have said that, just adds confusion, but we
No, I
are a
appreciate
department of the town. And I would enjoy what you're saying, but I don't know the legal part about it. I just don't understand how we get our name on the deed. And if it's not a big deal, I'd really enjoy that.
If the woman I talked to at the Registry of Deeds is correct, it's just a matter of doing a modification to the deed and having, it would say Town of Mechanic Falls / Mechanic Falls Water Department. And she said it's only like a $15 charge to have that done.
That might just save some confusion in the future.
So both bodies would have to be contacted.
Yeah.
I also know that the PUC is usually very protective of water.
You're absolutely right. When I called, they didn't have to research it. They could recite to me what's going on. And they sent me, I think it's 4 different laws that govern that.
Thank you very much.
Excellent idea.
Water department name added to the deed.
And your town clerk had an excellent idea. Why not have our town attorney do the necessary paperwork? And all we have to do is submit it to the registry for the correction.
Well, that's what the girl, well, if you get the attorney involved, yeah.
Won't go there.
well, anything we do, we need to get the attorney involved.
Yeah, it isn't, we said, he said, yeah, a little bit more than that. That's a great suggestion also.
That's something we can definitely follow up on. Yes, let's do that. Okay. I'd entertain a motion to adjourn. We're done our business for tonight.
Says the next meeting adjourned at 47.
I'll second that.
All those in favor? Adjourn.
Get that, Julie?
There was a motion to adjourn and Daryl seconded it.
Yep.
Okay. You say you can't write fast enough.
Hey, sometimes I have to go back to the video.